Fugitive cocaine lord Pablo Escobar.
Escobar, a ruthless killer.
A bloodthirsty gangster.
One of the world's most hunted men.
Killing 19 and injuring nearly 200.
What is it about the gangster that we find so captivating? Is it the rebellion, the power, the idea of rising from nothing to rule an empire?
Before Al Capone. Before Bugsy Siegel. Before Lucky Luciano. Before there was even a mob, there was just one man.
For a select few, the life of crime wasn't just a choice, it was a brutal art form. But behind the legends and the movies lies a cold, hard truth. Their thrones were built on violence, and their reigns were destined to crumble. Today, we're uncovering the real stories of the 10 most notorious gangsters who ever lived. Number 10, Benjamin Bugsy Siegel. Kicking off our list at number 10 is the man who mixed mob muscle with Hollywood glamour, Benjamin Bugsy Siegel. A key player in the national crime syndicate and a founder of the infamous hit squad, Murder, Inc., Siegel was as violent as he was visionary. He cut his teeth on bootlegging, gambling, and contract killings on both coasts. But Siegel's most enduring legacy was built in the Nevada desert. He took control of the Flamingo Hotel project in a rapidly growing desert town called Las Vegas, dreaming of a gambler's paradise. While not the first casino, the Flamingo's luxurious style was a major step in shaping the modern Las Vegas Strip. Plagued by soaring costs and mismanagement, the project was a disaster that infuriated his mob investors. On June 20th, 1947, while sitting in his girlfriend's Beverly Hills home, Siegel was shot and killed in a mob hit that remains officially unsolved. He helped create a blueprint for the Vegas empire, but never lived to see it flourish. Number 9, George "Machine Gun" Kelly Barnes. Coming in at number 9 is George Barnes, a Prohibition-era gangster, better known by the fearsome nickname his wife gave him, Machine Gun Kelly. While he dabbled in bootlegging and bank robbery, Kelly cemented his place in criminal history with one high-profile crime: the 1933 kidnapping of wealthy oil tycoon Charles F. Urschel. Kelly and his gang abducted Urschel at gunpoint from his Oklahoma City home, demanding a ransom of $200,000, a staggering sum at the time. The brazen crime triggered a massive FBI manhunt. Though the ransom was paid and Urschel was released, the victim's sharp memory of his surroundings provided crucial clues for the investigation. The FBI tracked Kelly down, and the case became one of the first major convictions under new federal kidnapping laws. Sentenced to life in prison, Machine Gun Kelly spent the rest of his days behind bars, his infamous nickname far outliving his short and chaotic reign. Number 8, Charles "Pretty Boy" Floyd. At number 8, we have a figure who blurred the line between criminal and folk hero, Charles "Pretty Boy" Floyd. Active during the Great Depression, Floyd was a notorious bank robber across America's Midwest. He was known for his reckless use of a machine gun, and during his crime spree, bank insurance rates in Oklahoma reportedly doubled. But what made Floyd a legend was his public image. He was seen by many struggling locals as a modern-day Robin Hood. Stories spread that during his heists, he would destroy mortgage documents, freeing poor farmers from their debt. While these tales are popular folklore, there's no solid evidence to prove they're true. Still, they earned him the loyalty of many who would help hide him from the law. His status as a hero of the people ended abruptly in 1934, when he was cornered and killed by law enforcement officers in Ohio. Number 7, Salvatore "Toto" Riina. Number 7 takes us to Sicily, the birthplace of the Mafia, and to a man known simply as the Beast. Salvatore "Toto" Rina was the head of the Corleonese faction of the Sicilian Cosa Nostra and one of the most ruthless bosses in history. He rose through the ranks as a brutal hitman, eventually launching a bloody war to seize control of the entire organization in the 1980s. Rina's reign was one of pure terror. He is thought to have ordered hundreds of murders, including those of rival mafiosi, politicians, and police. His most infamous acts were the 1992 assassinations of anti-mafia judges Giovanni Falcone and Paolo Borsellino, whose deaths in horrific bomb attacks sent shockwaves across Italy and the world. This blatant assault on the state finally triggered a massive crackdown. After decades as a fugitive, Rina was arrested in 1993 and sentenced to multiple life terms, dying in prison as the man who pushed the Italian state into an all-out war against the monster it could no longer ignore. Number 6. John Dillinger. Our number 6 spot goes to the man who became the FBI's first ever public enemy number 1, John Dillinger. Operating during the desperate years of the Great Depression, Dillinger led a gang on a spree of high-profile bank robberies that captured the nation's imagination. He was more than just a thief. He was an escape artist, breaking out of jail not once, but twice. His most legendary escape was from the county jail in Crown Point, Indiana, which had a reputation for being secure. The story goes that he used a wooden gun he had carved and blackened with shoe polish. This act of defiance made him a media sensation, and his charisma often overshadowed the violence of his crimes. But his daring ultimately sealed his fate. After he drove a stolen car across state lines, it escalated the massive federal manhunt already underway, led by J. Edgar Hoover's FBI. In 1934, betrayed by an acquaintance, Dillinger was ambushed and gunned down by federal agents outside the Biograph Theater in Chicago. Before we reveal our top 5 most notorious gangsters, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell icon so you don't miss our next dive into the criminal underworld. Number 5. John Gotti. Breaking into our top 5 is the man who craved the spotlight, John Gotti, also known as the Dapper Don. Gotti rose to power in the Gambino crime family in the most dramatic way possible, by orchestrating the brazen 1985 murder of his boss, Paul Castellano, outside a Manhattan steakhouse. Seizing control, Gotti became the face of the American Mafia in the 1980s, known for his expensive suits and open defiance of the law. He earned another nickname, the Teflon Don, after beating a series of federal charges that made him seem untouchable. But his love for the media and his loudmouth persona were his undoing. The FBI bugged his headquarters, capturing conversations that laid bare his criminal empire. The final nail in his coffin was the testimony of his underboss, Salvatore "Sammy the Bull" Gravano, who turned state's witness. In 1992, Gotti was convicted of murder and racketeering and sentenced to life in prison. Though he tried to exert control from behind bars, his power was effectively broken. Number 4. Carlo Gambino. At number 4 is the polar opposite of John Gotti, Carlo Gambino, the Quiet Don. While Gotti courted cameras, Gambino built his empire from the shadows, becoming arguably the most powerful mafia boss in America for decades. An immigrant from Sicily, he climbed the ranks of the New York underworld through cunning and patience, eventually taking control of what would become the Gambino crime family. Gambino's genius was his low profile. He oversaw a vast criminal enterprise that included racketeering, extortion, and control over labor unions, all while presenting himself as a simple businessman. He wielded immense power, and many considered him the most influential voice on the Commission, the mafia's governing body. In a world where gangsters usually end up in a prison cell or a coffin, Carlo Gambino achieved the ultimate prize. He died of natural causes at his home in 1976, a quiet end for the man who proved that silence was golden. Number 3. Charles Lucky Luciano. Our number 3 spot is reserved for the architect of the modern American mafia, Charles Lucky Luciano. Luciano was a criminal visionary who understood that constant gang warfare was bad for business. He rose to power during a brutal conflict between two old-world Sicilian bosses in New York. In a stroke of genius, Luciano orchestrated the assassinations of both bosses, paving the way for a new era. Instead of declaring himself boss of all bosses, Luciano abolished the title and established the Commission, a corporate-style board made up of the heads of the major mafia families. This governing body was designed to settle disputes, divide territories, and turn organized crime into a national syndicate. Though he was eventually convicted in 1936 on charges of compulsory prostitution and racketeering, and later deported to Italy, Luciano's creation reshaped the mafia into a sophisticated and enduring criminal enterprise. Number 2. Pablo Escobar. At number 2, we have the man who became known as the King of Cocaine, Pablo Escobar. As the leader of the infamous Medellin cartel, Escobar built a drug empire of unimaginable scale. At its height in the 1980s, his organization supplied an estimated 80% of the cocaine smuggled into the United States, making him one of the richest men in the world. But his wealth was built on a mountain of bodies. To protect his empire, Escobar waged a war of narco-terrorism against the Colombian state. His campaign of terror is blamed for the assassinations of thousands, including politicians, judges, and police officers. For a time, he cultivated a Robin Hood image by funding projects in poor neighborhoods. But his brutality eventually turned the tide against him. After years as a fugitive, Escobar's reign came to a violent end on December 2, 1993, when he was killed in a shootout with Colombian police on a Medellin rooftop. Number 1. Al Capone. And at number 1 on our list is the man whose name is synonymous with the word gangster, Alphonse Al Capone. As the boss of the Chicago outfit during the Prohibition era, Capone became the most famous and feared criminal in America. He built an empire on bootlegging, gambling, and prostitution, ruling Chicago with an iron fist. Capone was a master of public relations, often presenting himself as a businessman and philanthropist. But behind the facade was a ruthless killer. His name is forever linked to the 1929 St. Valentine's Day Massacre, where 7 members of a rival gang were executed. This event cemented his monstrous reputation and led the Chicago Crime Commission to name him Public Enemy Number 1. Ironically, after years of bloodshed, it wasn't murder that brought him down. In 1931, Al Capone was convicted of federal income tax evasion and sentenced to 11 years in prison. His health deteriorated behind bars, and he was released a broken man, dying in 1947. From the streets of Chicago to the jungles of Colombia, the stories of these 10 men are a testament to the destructive allure of power. They built empires of crime through intelligence, ambition, and unspeakable violence. But as their stories show, no matter how high they rose, their reigns were brutal and their ends were almost always inevitable. Their legends live on, but they serve as a stark reminder that a life of crime ultimately leads to just 2 destinations: a prison cell or an early grave. Did we miss any gangsters you think should be on the list? Let us know in the comments below.